Hey, how's it going? My name is John Ellison, and I'm experimenting with a new series called ReFi Launchpad. I personally have been fascinated by this exploding movement at the intersection of Web3 and climate action. I wanted to take some time today to speak with the founders of an up-and-coming ReFi protocol called ECORISE. I've been keeping my eye on them for the last few months, but hadn't really had a chance to dig deep beneath the surface and figure out what is this, is it for me, and what is the underlying theory of change. So we're going to speak with founders Corneile and Booker, learn how they are experimenting with new incentive structures to try and kick off what they describe as a flywheel of regeneration to try and buy forest and mangroves that are at risk of destruction, protect them, and ultimately improve the ecosystem health to try and draw down carbon and increase biodiversity for future generations. I personally think that if something like this works, it could be an absolute game changer. So if you are a regen on the lookout for different projects where you can deploy capital for doing good and taking care of the problems that you care most about, definitely think it's worth a look. I'll share my screen here and you can check out their Twitter account, which is ECORISE DAO. They have a link tree with a link to their IDO on TrustSwap. They are launching on May 10th. Their RISE governance token. You need swap tokens in order to do it, and this is definitely something worth looking at. They're experimenting with some kind of tokenomics that have been inspired by the Terra Luna pattern, and I think there's a huge potential here. So take a look at what they are up to, see if it works for you, and listen to the interview that'll roll in just a few moments. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this is first of many ReFi Launchpad episodes. I've been hearing the term ReFi summer. Maybe there's something happening in this space as people are really experimenting with how to use the power of Web3 to redesign money and heal the earth. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the little episode. Hey, what's going on, Corneile? Hey, Booker, how y'all doing this morning?
Good, John. How you doing?
Yeah, man, nice. Excited to talk to you guys. Seen you hanging around the ReFi space and heard you got a launch upcoming soon. So yeah, curious to learn more about what you guys are up to, what it is you're launching, and what we can do to support.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah, it's been pretty cool being part of the ReFi DAO space and have really learned a lot and also made a bunch of really good connections in the ReFi DAO space. So definitely a lot of good partners and a lot of collaboration. So it's definitely helped us push our project forward and basically help us fill like the gaps that we had in our project with some partners from the ReFi DAO space. So.
Nice, man. So what is it that you guys are actually doing? I have to admit, I don't know a whole lot about your proposition, the problem you're trying to solve. Like, tell me more. What's up?
Yeah. So we started ECORISE about a year ago, and the main focus was, and still is, on creating a stable coin that's pegged to land value. So, we looked at the stable coins that's available, and, most of them are either pegged or back to the US dollar or fiat currency. And as we know, with inflation going, you're losing purchasing power if you're holding stable coins. It's great for, times of market volatility, but, if you're just sitting there with, basically holding digital cash, you're still losing purchasing power. So, Booker and I, we're both, basically I'm from real estate investing as well. And, the value of holding real estate over time has always been a good hedge against inflation. So, we thought of like, well, why don't we create a stable coin that's pegged to land value instead of fiat currency? And then as, inflation goes up, generally land prices go up with it too. So the stable coin will be then pegged to that land value. So over time, your purchasing power should actually get more with holding a stable coin like that. So that's how we started. And, a lot of like brainstorming and figuring out how that would work. And then we started building from there. So we started figuring out like, okay, well, how would a stablecoin like that look? How would it work? We figured out we couldn't have it collaterally backed by land because, you know, for it to keep its peg somehow, you should be able to like sell the land, which is obviously like a tedious process. So we looked at a project like Terra Luna, if you're familiar with that. So they created a stable coin that's, you know, pegged to fiat currency, but it's algorithmically pegged to the dollar. So, you know, we came up with the solution to have it algorithmically pegged to land value in our treasury. But then we also needed to create a second token, which is our RISE token. So ECO is our stable coin and RISE is our deflationary utility token. So the RISE token helps the ECO token keep its peg. And then you also need RISE token to mint the ECO token, which then burns the majority of the RISE token. So we started figuring out our two token ecosystem, and then, you know, building out our DAO in our treasury, and, you know, how do we acquire land to purchase? So, you know, we looked at like, you know, doing a fundraise with the RISE token. That's also part of our launch coming up on May 10th. Is to raise funds with our RISE token, which is our governance token as well. So it gets the community members involved into the DAO, so they can, you know, have governance and decision-making capabilities, voting on which properties to buy, voting on which decisions to make in the DAO. And so then as we purchase property, we also are creating it so that landowners, existing landowners, like big NGOs or farms, can also then stake their land into our DAO, which basically creates a decentralized treasury of land assets. So this helps keep our ECO tokens peg because it's pegged to the treasury value, but it also helps us, you know, get the process of ecosystem services going. And so, you know, there's a big focus on carbon credits right now and doing the carbon marketplace much better and the verification and assessment. So what we do is we incentivize and reward landowners to stake their land into our DAO, and then help them and provide funding so that they can start the carbon assessment verification process, so they can start carbon farming. And not just carbon farming, but past that, where we're looking at like, you know, biodiversity credits, especially like Regen Network is working on you know, creating those, and there's water retention credits. So there's a whole bunch of eco credits coming out that are, you know, creating value for basically living intact, you know, healthy ecosystems. And so the land that we're purchasing and attracting is land that should be conserved and regenerated over time. And then these ecosystem services that are created from the lands, these credits also go into the treasury and helps the treasury value. So it's land value plus ecosystem service value goes up, and the eco token is pegged to that. So over time, as you get more credits and land value locked in, the eco token's value also increases over time. So that's it in a nutshell.
Nice, man. What's your involvement in this, Booker?
Yeah, so Corneile and I kind of developed this idea together. It kind of has evolved over the last probably 15, 16 months. But we both kind of approached each other with a similar idea, and we kind of just built it out from there. So what you see EcoRise is now is has evolved many times over the last 15 months. My input has been mostly from like a tokenomics side of things. And Corneile has like a really, really awesome background in sort of like agriculture and the sort of the natural, the way that I mean, Corneile can talk about his background, but he grew up on a farm and with the different practices that they did there and stuff. My experience more comes from a tokenomics side of things. So I kind of like modeled our tokenomics system based off of Terra Luna's because I really like that system. And like Corneile said, it allows us to not necessarily have to asset back our token in a way that requires us to redeem the asset to maintain that peg, right? So when you have like like Pax Gold or something. You have to have an asset that's redeemable in order to maintain the peg. And we don't want to do that with land. We don't want to do that with natural land, right? Because natural land, the whole premise of our project is to capture this natural land and preserve and protect it basically in perpetuity. So if we have to be selling land to maintain our token, that then defeats the purpose of the whole premise of our project, right? So that's sort of my role, has been sort of designing the tokenomics on the side of our team.
Nice, super cool. Love the project and grateful to get into it. So you guys mentioned the launch on May 10th. What is the launch? Is it just the governance token? Is it both? How much money are you looking for? Like, how does this fit with the acquisition of actual land? Curious to see what, the launch entails and how people can get involved in it.
You can do that, Booker.
Yeah, so our launch is on TrustSwap on May 10th. TrustSwap is a Launchpad. I know you're probably familiar with Launchpads, but how it works is users that holds the TrustSwap token, swap token, can stake that to have access to participating in our launch of our token. And then there's different tier systems. So I think they have like 20 different tiers depending on how much you stake. And then that gives you an allocation to be able to purchase our token at the public sale price, and then get it vested to you over the next 5 months. The launch, I think I said it was on May 10th. There'll be, I believe, a 24-hour period there. There's no rush to get a specific time, a 24-hour period that you can take to participate. And yeah, we're really excited about it. It's been kind of a journey, over the last few months building up to it, and this is like the last 100-meter sprint, before we get to the beginning of the beginning. You know what I mean? The end of the beginning, I guess I could say.
It's exciting, man.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do with the funds raised?
Yeah, so this launch is just for the Rise token. So it's the governance token, the utility token, right? So what we plan on doing, first of all, it's more for further development of the project. There's a lot of development that still needs to happen. Building out the DAO, building out the eco token, the staking mechanisms, but the majority of that raise will go towards land purchase. And so we have a few kind of properties in mind as well, because one of our partners, this is My Earth, they're biodiversity. They're basically, they're an NGO, but they help biodiversity hotspots be protected. And so each biodiversity hotspot gets vetted by a panel of 20 scientists, and to make sure that it's actually a biodiversity hotspot. But say they have 15 properties in a lineup, but currently on their website there's about 3. So 2 of them is in Ecuador and 1 of them is Colombia. So we're basically just currently chatting to see which one would be the most beneficial and the most kind of ideal to be able to purchase and then stake that into the DAO vault. So ideally it's something that has a big, it's a big area, but even more important is how that ties into the larger areas. So some of these are 10, 20,000 hectares big. But ideally, it's the ecosystem services part that matters. Is you have to be able to have a large tract of land to be able to scale and make it sense to start doing an ecosystem services project, because it's an expensive initial fee. So the larger land area you could have under under that assessment, the better, because then you can show more carbon capture, more biodiversity, more water retention, and all these credits can then go towards funding continuous conservation and regeneration of those properties. Paying the people on the ground to make sure that things stay or improve. So most of the funds will go towards land acquisition and development.
Nice, super cool. So, how do you actually bring the land on chain? Like, what is the representation of the real world asset? Is it like tokenizing the title, or what does that look like?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So we definitely, I think Toucan was definitely an inspiration, when we thought, oh, cool. Yeah. You can take these things and you can make them NFTs, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, the idea is to, you take the land title, turn it into an NFT and take that property value, and bring it on chain. And so we have a few different, partners that can help us with like, the the oracle, the algorithmic parts of it, and bringing that kind of data on chain.
And so, what is the actual like meat space or in real world entity which owns the land title?
So the land will either own, like if the DAO ends up purchasing the land for protection, then the DAO will
Hmm.
own the land, or a
Hmm.
representative from the DAO will own the land in like trust of the DAO.
Okay.
Or we can have individual landowners come and stake their land, and
Hmm.
it doesn't
Hmm.
require a transfer of ownership at all.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the on-chain property title isn't a representation of who holds this NFT, owns the land, or anything like that. The NFT itself will be locked within our protocol and won't be tradable or anything like that. It's more of a point to distribute data based upon that property on chain. So market
Hmm.
value
Hmm.
data, any sort of natural capital valuations, payments for ecosystem service data. As you know, like when it comes to establishing ecosystem services rewards on a property like carbon credits,
Hmm.
it takes a lot of time, and there's a
Totally.
lot of data associated with that that normally is done on the ground by people, occasionally once a year or whatever it ends up being.
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
with our system, we're partnering with open forest protocol,
Oh, cool.
Shamba network, for MRV services, geospatial, and with open forest protocol, obviously like forestry based measurement services, to be able to take all this data on the specific properties that are in our vault, and all of that data will be directed directly into that property title NFT. And so when these lands are staked in our DAO and they're generating ecosystem services, anybody will be able to go into our platform and go and see which lands are staked, and then through the UI you'll be able to see, in basically in real time, all the data associated with that specific property that is verifiable, right? So you can see that all of these lands are actually doing what they say they're going to do, which is a big problem in like the carbon credit market space right now, is like transparency of data, and like, are these properties really doing what they say they're doing? Is this carbon credit actually, is this carbon credit from this project actually truly a carbon credit? Was 1 ton of carbon sequestered? We don't know that often with most of the carbon credits out there in the OTC market. So our projects will all be verifiable through our platform really easily, and that will all be held inside this, property title NFT.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so that helps to know. Cool to hear you're working with the OFP guys and Kennedy from Shamba. Yeah, big fans of them,
Yeah.
and think it's definitely the next evolution of this space. So I'm curious. Obviously, OFP hasn't launched yet, and you guys have a bit of a roadmap moving ahead. Like, what does it look like from May 10th? What's a kind of magic wand scenario? How much money you get out of the Rise token, how much land you're going to acquire, and then what's kind of the roadmap from here.
Yeah. So basically, we're doing a raise for like 1.5 million USD. So we think like, hopefully about 1 million of that can go towards land purchases, and like properties in, Ecuador and Colombia are, quite a bit, cheaper, especially when it comes to natural land. So you can definitely get, more for something with that amount than you could get in like developed countries, right? Just because, land values here are so expensive. But then going past that, it's like, building out our DAO infrastructure. Right now, we're just running our DAO basically from Discord, basically just attracting people and seeing who's, contributing members already. But we definitely have like an actual DAO app that's what we're waiting for to launch actually on Solana blockchain. And then going past that, so we need to be able to acquire more land over in the next year, and also have existing landowners be able to stake their land in the DAO to add to that property value, right? So then once we have a set amount of land value, we can launch our eco token, because we want to have a large treasury amount before we launch our eco token to actually be able to provide that peg. So, but currently after the raise, we will be developing the eco token out as well, and the staking for the Rise tokens, because also we have a lot of NFTs planned for it. So NFTs that are going to help with raising funds for future land purchases. So basically, I don't know if you know Moss, CO2 token. Yeah. So they're doing something similar already, but so let's say there's a large area of land that's at risk of development, or even agricultural land that could be regenerated. So we'll basically look at how many hectares that land is, what's the price on it, and basically do an NFT raise for that land where you fractionalize those NFTs into little parts. So basically then the community can basically own through NFTs sections of those land, and then basically be able to fund it completely. So it'll become DAO, like decentralized DAO community owned land over time. And so building out the eco token, building out the NFTs, and building out the DAO.
Nice. And help me understand, obviously you guys have expressed a commitment to acquire this land and hold on to it in perpetuity, which seems like the right play. But I've also seen other actors who are acquiring environmental assets, and then they realize actually to keep the DAO afloat, we need to liquidate some of these. Is there a secondary market upon which these fractionalized NFTs, which represent parts of land, can be sold? Or are these very illiquid assets that require the titles themselves to be sold to another owner in order for the fractionalized NFTs to be liquidated?
Yeah, I think that when we're talking about NFTs used to raise funds to purchase the land, it's more of a representational value. So your NFT, you can go ahead and trade it, but that specific NFT doesn't give you rights over choosing what to do with that land. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So as far as like bad actors coming in and deciding that they want to like purchase up all these NFTs and then cut down all the trees, right? Like that's not something that we expect to happen, and nor do we have like any system in place for that to be able to happen. As far as the DAO liquidating assets, I think that it all depends on like your ongoing costs, right? Like we're the whole point of our project is to generate revenue through PES, right? And I think that there's a lot of DAOs out there that struggle with sort of like that that income source, so to speak, like
Sure.
like income's generated through their specific token, right? And then their token depreciates in value 10 times, and then they say, okay, well, we can't really afford to do this anymore, and we can't pay this person for this, so we have to liquidate some stuff. Our revenue stream isn't coming from our token, if that makes sense. Our revenue stream is coming from payments for ecosystem services. And so when you look at like carbon credit markets, and we're just at the beginning. We're at like the cusp of being able to value natural capital and these things that the nature is able to do for us. And so carbon credits, I've seen reports that it's supposed to like 4 to 10x over the next 10 years, right? Like we're just at the beginning of being able to value this, and that's our entire revenue model is based on payments for ecosystem services. So I don't think that that's going to be an issue for us. That being
so
said, you can't predict the future, right? So,
yeah.
there's no way to be able to say never, never, never. But like the whole design of our DAO is to bring and fold in all these organizations, land stewards, landowners, so that we all have a joint effort in deciding, what we end up doing as a DAO. And I think if everybody's values are aligned, then and we have the right people around, I think that things will move forward the right direction.
Sure. Yeah. And so just to answer that side of the question is, in order to sell the land, the legal entity of the DAO actually has to sell the land title in order to liquidate one of the assets, right?
Correct.
And so you could potentially have a proposal to say, for some reason, we feel like this asset isn't performing for ecosystem services as we intended, and the DAO could pass a proposal to go ahead and sell a parcel of land if it wanted to. So the liquidity still relies on the off-chain market activity to liquidate assets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, interesting. Yeah, nice. Super fascinating. You guys mentioned you're partnering Open Forest, and are you launching on Solana, or is just your DAO tooling on Solana?
No, we're launching on Solana.
Okay. How much ReFi activity is happening on Solana? That's an interesting choice. I'm curious, like who else is on there that you are excited about? Why did you choose Solana over the alternatives? And what's the kind of ReFi activity looking like in that neck of the woods? I'm curious.
Yeah, we've I think one other project called Eco Tokens. I think you've seen them before. They're in the ReFi DAO space too. They're also based in Canada actually. And what they do is they do like they basically have like water cleaning systems as well. So they go to areas where water isn't the greatest, and they clean it up. So that's one of them. And then there was another one that's built on Solana. Booker, you remember who that was?
No, I can't remember what you're.
I remember there's one more. But yeah, it's not the most amount of projects. I think it looks like most projects are built on Polygon or either Cosmos. So initially, I definitely did look into, or we looked into getting or building on Cosmos. That was like a really big consideration. We love like the internet of blockchains and the decentralization of it, but big part of our project is NFTs and NFT demand. And Solana, after Ethereum, is pretty much got the most going for it when it comes to NFT adoption. And obviously the most recent, OpenSea Solana kind of collaboration shows that mass market adoption into the Solana space. So that was definitely a big consideration. And then also the speed of Solana, the cheapness of sending transactions, but also it's also an extremely environmentally friendly blockchain. So those are all really important for us, but definitely to have that market for NFT sales because the demand. So part of our revenue stream will also be creating and selling NFTs to be able to purchase properties going forward, because there's so many properties on the planet that need to be either conserved or restored or regenerated. And so we can just continuously create NFTs to fund those, and that have percentage put aside to keep revenue and overheads going in the DAO.
Super cool, man. Yeah, I haven't actually jumped into much Solana space. I've got a Kepler wallet, but I have mainly been an Ethereum guy, and now dipping my toes into the Celo waters, which has been fun.
Yeah.
But love the kind of cross-chain ReFi ecosystem emerging, and great to hear the kind of rationale you guys went through. I'm curious, are you entirely bootstrapped, or have you received some funding to date? How have you made this, you said 18-month journey at one point, possible, just as a model for other people?
Yeah, bootstrapped in the beginning for sure. And then we started doing like a seed round with just personal networks, and just explaining the vision to people and attracting investment like that, and then attracting more people and getting more people to get in on seed. And now we're basically in a private round, before our public round. So yeah, but definitely a lot of bootstrapping and a lot of
hard hours, long days.
Creative, right?
Everybody's least favorite thing is like finding funding, right? Like nobody enjoys doing that, right?
Right.
But yeah, but everybody needs it. So,
I
here we are.
know. Got to find some good actors. Cool. Good for you guys. Well, it sounds like you're in the
Yeah.
last stretch. I'm curious. It sounds a lot like the DAO governance and particularly like the legal setup of the DAO seems to be of significant importance in your guys' structure, given that the DAO is, the owner of the land title, and the land title is the asset upon which really the value does seem to hinge and converge. Like, where are you incorporated? How's it all set up? Like, curious what you've thought through, because there seems to be a few patterns emerging in the space. I've heard from some people, they're looking either at Switzerland or British Virgin Islands, and yeah, curious to hear what you guys decided on, and yeah, why in effect for your legal structure.
Yeah. So initially we started in Estonia. Basically because Estonia had really basically crypto friendly laws and regulations. But recently they changed. They basically went kind of the other way, and doesn't look like they're that friendly anymore. So we had a contact in El Salvador, and as we know, like El Salvador is doing, it's got legal tender Bitcoin and are extremely crypto friendly. So we're starting up an office in El Salvador as well. But we'll be starting up a lot of basically you could say offices or incorporations in the countries that we're purchasing land. And we think like we'll have like our overarching DAO in basically based in El Salvador, and then have other incorporations in other countries be subsidiaries of the DAO. I don't know why that's such a tongue twister. So basically, it makes sense to own property in a specific country with a company that's established in that country, and then that company is then a subsidiary of the DAO. So basically, I think every country we'll go into will own property.
Yeah, so I understand that model and how you'd have those individual nation state entities own the land, but then be a subsidiary of the entity in El Salvador. Is the first DAO I've heard of choose El Salvador. I know they're Bitcoin friendly, but it seems like an interesting play because I don't know the political landscape, but in the same way that Estonia kind of went one way and then the other based upon probably a political influence, it's interesting to hear. But yeah, cool to know there's options in El Salvador, and I'm sure you guys took good legal counsel. This stuff is so new and complicated, and wish there was just like a best practice that everybody could just point to and say, do this, and go
it's
in this
evolving,
place.
right?
And,
Everything's just evolving so fast.
Yeah, it's
you gotta be flexible,
hard.
right? Like, because you gotta be really flexible. So we had a contact in El Salvador because with their plans for like the Bitcoin city that they're planning there. I don't know if you've heard about that, but like they're planning to build a kind of a city around this volcano in El Salvador to mine Bitcoin. And so basically it'll create a green energy infrastructure for the town there that's funded or that's powered by the geothermal from the volcano, but then also mining Bitcoin at the same time, which creates a whole economy and is ideally attracting a lot of like crypto projects to the country, which obviously, funds flowing into El Salvador from foreign areas is good for the country's GDP. So they're, really trying to reinvent their country's economy because it's been so shattered by their dependence on the US dollar for the last few decades. And so, yeah, I mean, like they're, the legal team we're working with is great. Like they're based in El Salvador. But, we're basically what we want to see is like innovation, and also, regulation, in the country that says like, yes, these things are okay here, obviously. But it's important that, we be aligned with countries who are like obviously friendly towards cryptocurrency in general. And so obviously El Salvador's, ability to say, yeah, we want Bitcoin as legal tender and that we welcome, and we're welcoming crypto projects here is really important to us.
Totally. And I guess, the idea of having an office there and there being a kind of startup community in the region seems to be a super fascinating play, especially if you can, use this land as an asset to invite other people to build other protocols that, incentivize regeneration. I'm not sure if you guys saw what Let's Invert was doing, but they were, a relatively well capitalized startup in Brazil, and they were playing a similar model, but building like a metaverse game on top of it that would allow people to perform on-chain actions that would ultimately incentivize on-the-ground regenerative, behaviors. And I think knowing, from a couple conversations, it sounded like it was just too many moving parts, and they ended up splitting off the land acquisition entity into one piece, the game into another piece, and it really seems to me a bit of a trend that, there's so much emergence in the space that it's good for DAOs to just focus on doing one part and doing it well, and then creating alignment with other DAOs that can, complement their activities. So I'm curious to hear what your guys' kind of long-term vision is here in terms of your role in the ReFi ecosystem. How big of a pie are you going to be taking, and what other actors do you want plugging into your infrastructure, and what's the end state look like?
Yeah, sure. So I think that one of our long-term goals is to try to establish basically a stable token, an eco token that can be adoptable by any protocol exchange to pair as a stable pairing token with their token or other tokens on their exchange or whatever, to sort of like meet cryptocurrency's version, blockchain's version of SDGs, right? So knowing that by adopting their eco token, they can meet these specific goals that they had that are currently there's such a big market for in like the TradeFi space and like regular type businesses, but doesn't really exist in sort of blockchain and sort of decentralized finance yet as much. And that's, you see the ReFi space growing. So that's one of our long-term goals. Another one, so the expansion of our project drives value back into conservation, right? And so having a system that's scalable like ours, and that it doesn't require the DAO to specifically own all this land, I think allows us to grow quite quickly. And having like a very frictionless onboarding system for landowners will allow us to grow quite quickly. And so I think that, within the near future, within the next 12 to 24 months, we can see a significant amount of land locked inside our DAO, because there's not really a big exchange, and there's not really a lot of back end real world legal documents that need to take place to have this happen. And so I think like a quick growth, quick scaling, lots of land locked in the vault, eco token adopted as a sort of like an eco-friendly stable currency that is not subject to fiat currency inflation. And I think that is a feasible thing in the near to midterm, and that's basically our goal.
Cool. Nice. Yeah. I love the vision. It sounds like there's a couple other actors in the space. You've got, DAI and the vision for clean money at MakerDAO that Ruin has put out, and they've begun experimenting with that acquisition of land in New Jersey. You've got, the Celo Reserve and their stable coins, CUSD, CEUR, and CReal. And they've committed to back quite a large amount of their currency with natural capital assets. Like, how do you see those two players in correspondence to your position? And curious what lessons you've learned from other incumbents in the space.
Yeah, I think what differentiates us to, I would say most, if not all, the other sort of stable currencies that are being created is that sort of natural capital aspect that actually the token derives its value from that number, right? I think there's lots of like stable currencies. Most of them actually are all pegged to fiat currency, right? And as you've seen in the last, everybody's seen in the last, everybody's seen in the last little while here, fiat currencies, it's not, people don't like to have, the value of their assets be in control of a government that can just, dilute their money, basically continue to dilute their money based upon the decisions that they've made as a country. and then it affects the entire world, right? So if we can have a currency that is, as Bitcoin is free from government control, but necessarily a stable currency, right? So like our eco token, right? Pegged to natural value, natural capital, and land. And I think that's what sort of differentiates us from lots of other projects. I mean, we're starting out, right? Like this is the beginning for us. And so, we're building as fast as we can, but we also want to make sure things are done properly, right? So
Nice.
over the next 12 to 24 months, we should start to see this start to happen with the eco token adoption. But like I said, we don't want to rush things because we see all too frequently this big new hypey thing comes out and then it just crashes and burns within 3 months, right?
Sure.
So we want to make sure things are built solidly. So so we're going to take our time and do it right.
Cool.
But yeah, that's
what do people need to do to prep for the launch? What are the behaviors people can take?
Corneile?
So to prep for the launch, basically, I mean, the trust swap launch, people need to get their swap tokens to get an allocation for that. But we are also, in talks with a few other like smaller launchpads where you don't need a trust swap allocation to actually get into. So as soon as those are kind of locked in, we'll share details with those. But those
Cool.
would be great for for people that can't come up with the the kind of bigger upfront investment to be part of the swap or the trust swap project. They can get into the smaller ones. So, but
what kind of investment are they looking at as a barrier for trust swap? Like how much money?
Yeah, so trust swap, you need 4,000 swap tokens.
Okay.
And I think currently a swap token is around 65 cents or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Cool.
if you only want to come in with a few $1,000s, or if you only have a few $1,000s, then you're going to need to put that up for swap tokens. But that does give you an allocation to further projects as well, not just to to our project, but you're actually part of their launchpad then, so you can actually get allocations to every project that launches on that launchpad.
Nice, nice man.
Yeah, but
Cool.
But the smaller ones there would be no barrier to entry.
Awesome, man. So yeah, you guys are on Twitter at ECORISE DAO. And get your swap tokens. Jump in the Discord for more information? Like where's all the launch going to be happening at?
Yeah, Twitter, Discord, and Telegram. So we have, and it's all on our website. So all the links to all our socials are on our website and on our Twitter as well.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. This has been super fun today. I'm so grateful for you grabbing my ear and telling me a bit more about this opportunity. And yeah, really looking forward to seeing how the community responds. And yeah, go real world assets coming on chain, the health of ecosystems. I'm such a fan, and yeah, excited that we're all in this effort together, learning, trying new things, and doing our best, but also taking care, like you said, to do it properly and make sure that we make this for the long term. So super fun talking to you guys.
Thanks a lot, John.
Awesome.
Appreciate you having
thanks
us
for
here.
having us on, John.
Ciao, guys.